Hello there, I'm Big Alias, and ho ho ho, you hoes. It has to stop. It has to end. I need to stop doing this. But I want to do some housekeeping before we start this video. I spoke recently about the critical reception to this film in a commentary where I explained that, it's important to both trust critics, but also, put your own opinion into it and don't judge a film until you've seen it. Now we've seen it, and do I think the critics were correct? I mean, they gave it a 9 on Rotten Tomatoes and a 30 on Metacritic. Do I think the critics were correct? No, I actually don't agree with the critics. Do I think it's great? No, definitely not. Do I think it's good, at least? It really depends. It's contextual. It depends on your frame of mind, and not just whether you like sort of dumb, goofy movies, but it goes a little bit deeper than that. Are you willing to forgive a lot of bad writing, bad CGI, and overall odd construction and derivative formulas? If you're cool with that, and I mean this, I'm not being pejorative in any way. If you like that and you'd rather just see cool lens flares on the screen and people shooting one another, then yes, I suppose you may find it good. And the same goes for whether you find it bad. It's completely contextual. It's a very odd film. It's a strange film, and I do see why the critics, panned it as much as they did, despite the fact that I don't agree, because it does have some really major issues, and the construction is very strange. The two key issues I would say with the film for me were Zack Snyder balancing what he knows and what he's good at with darker themes, and how derivative it is, which it really is. Firstly, I really had a problem with, Zack Snyder does action and crazy blown out action. That's his bread and butter. Do I like the way he does it? Usually no, but I understand that a lot of people do, and it is extremely watchable, to say the least, although I do find his shot composition to be very muddy and over the top and far too crowded, and I found that frequently in this film. But in this film, it seems as though he tries to balance that with some kind of darker themes, with a little bit of I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this on YouTube, but there are themes of rape here, there are themes of capture and torture and stuff like that. It gets very dark, particularly for what was going to be a Star Wars script. Very odd when he balances that out with slow-mo shots of badass characters sliding around and firing off energy lasers. It just doesn't feel as though it balances particularly well. And also, like I said, it is incredibly derivative. My god. I mean, we all expected it to be very Star Wars-esque. There's characters with blasters, characters with lightsabers, and the bad guys obviously feel a lot like the Empire, and the regular sort of foot soldier factions feel like stormtroopers. I will also say this, there's a lot more though that it borrows from. I'm going to try not to spoil too much, but the opening scene with the bad guy is lifted straight from Inglourious Bastards. There's a lot of at times it even feels a bit Indiana Jonesy. I really don't know how to describe that, but it just kind of does. They're borrowing a lot here. They're not just borrowing Star Wars. Some of the sort of atmospheric theming kind of felt lifted out of Pierce Brown's novel Red Rising, which is a fantastic book, with this sort of oppressive sci-fi tech versus sort of very grounded and backwards technology of the people they're oppressing, stuff like that. It all just feels lifted out of popular stuff left, right and center, and I'm okay with that, as long as it's all glued together well. Oh, and also structurally the film essentially plays out like Mass Effect 2, oddly enough, where the whole film is about recruiting people for a big battle at the end that inevitably won't be the final battle, because apparently this is part 1 of 2 parts. I thought it was going to be like a film series, but no, this film is cut into 2 halves. The second half is coming in April because of Zack Snyder, and the whole thing will probably add up to about 5 hours because it's Zack Snyder. So those were the issues, but I mean overall, again, if you can forgive that, and there's some awful dialogue, bad performances, I don't think that the lead character is very poorly acted. Awful green screens. Oh, there is one shot in the film where they go to this very sci-fi planet And it's genuinely the worst CGI. The establishing shot coming in is the worst CGI I've seen in a film, possibly for around about 20 years, and I'm not exaggerating. It's like Neil Breen level bad. It really is that bad. And honestly, that entire scene is just awful. There's no meat on the bone, no like real action or anything to grab onto in any way, but there is a, you know, half decent finale. I think the bad guy, who's the guy from Deadpool, actually puts in a pretty decent performance. You do consider him to be a bit of a dick throughout the entire film, and you don't like him, and you're not supposed to, and you don't, and you know, so that works. I have a couple of issues with the character, the chief among which is his weapon. He doesn't seem formidable at any point. But you know, like, if you're okay with a bad performance from the lead character, you do get like the badass female Kill Bill sort of style character, which is cool. The sort of Mia Djokovic, you know, style character, you know, and that kind of works at times when you can avoid the bad performance. I wouldn't say that there's much chemistry between the characters, but they're there. The action sequences are fair, a little bit too much you know, slow motion here and there. You can definitely tell that the budget is weaker on this one than any other project of his. Well, other than, you know, I think it was Army of the Dead, the Netflix original. But it's all right. You know, by definition, I would really say that the best way to describe this film is that it's fine. It's just fine. You know, you have to get over a lot to get anything out of it. But if you can, then yeah, it's alright. It's worth giving a shot. I'd say between a 5 and a 6 out of 10 for me. Certainly not a 3 out of 10 or a 0.9 out of 10, but yeah, definitely give it a shot. You know, if you have a Netflix subscription, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes of your life, and give it a go. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Rebel Moon. Again, like, I went in wanting to like it, and I could stand it. You know, it was okay. And I guess I'll see everyone later. Eat these noodles, they're yum, and then it will be a man. There's only one way to be a man, is to eat these, or gorilla. 3 times the size as you will be before. And you could take over the world, or a city, and the grass as well. Or Superman. You could be Superman, Gorilla Superman, Tornadoes, who starts tornadoes with the Eiffel Tower. And then eat soup in order, or wear a wig. Buy Upright Noodles. It's a fucking box of noodles.
PlayStation is only $149, and you can also get leading titles.